And on to the last lap of videos today, okay? I am a huge fan of outlining. I recommend everybody to go necessarily through that stage of the writing process no matter what. I think it's the most productive of all the stages of the process. Okay? And outlining happens when you organize your ideas sequentially. Okay? Now remember that we emphasized the idea that we don't write sequentially, but at some point we will have to put all your content together sequentially. Okay, so this is when it happens. And I also mentioned that I'm not a fan of mind mapping. However, I know people who can mind map their way to the moon and back, and they love mind mapping as an organizing tool. It's not my case. For me, the next stage is a lot more productive, okay? So a mind map will let you cluster your ideas. It will allow you to put them together. But you will miss something that is very important that outlining gives you, and it is this hierarchical order. So outlining, when you do the actual outline, it will allow you to put ideas into place according to their importance and according to which one supports which other idea, which is exactly what you would do in a paragraph. So all the large bits of your outline will become finally a paragraph or perhaps sections. We will talk about this as soon as we start dealing with the types, okay? So if you read the text by Booth and other authors, you probably realized that they talked about two different outlines. The first one they talk about is the topic outline. And this outline is super, super useful when you have to organize large texts. So keep an eye on it. And then you have argument outlines. These are my favorite because an argument outline somewhat allows you to make sense, okay? To say things in a way that makes sense. Yes? Now, if you internalize the writing process as a strategy to do your best when you're doing the activity, when you prepare your thesis, you will necessarily need to use both types of outlines, okay? So if you think of the topic outline, you will see that it's basically a table of contents. You will need to trim the ideas, you will need to edit the list of topics. You're going to have to make it easier on your reader's eyes, but it's basically what it is. Later on in this lesson, you will be asked to look at a table of contents, your table of contents, not yours, but the one of the thesis you've been working with, but also another one. Okay, now for me, the best way to start with the outline of the large piece of writing, which is your thesis, or the sections of your thesis, is departing from the IMRED, okay, from the introduction, methods, results, and discussion. And this is like a basic skeleton, okay, and then there are things that will move around. For example, I believe that I mentioned or quoted or showed you a thesis from, I may be wrong, but usually in chemistry, this is what they do. In this thesis, you had the introduction, you had the articles, and at the end, you had the list of experimental procedures. I believe I'm not wrong about the title. Monographs in chemistry tend to be organized that way. So you would have an introduction, you would have the results straight away, and then a long discussion. And after that, you will have the methods. And hey, that's the convention for them, okay? But if you start with this, you already have an outline. It is extremely broad. So the task is to fill in the spaces between the introduction, the methods, the results with something that makes sense, with content, okay? So the outline is actually your framework, the basic one. That's what a topic outline does, okay? And we're going to look at one taken from the Harvard Writing Center. And the topic won't feel very current, but imagine you're a history student, and I'm using this because it's easy to understand for everybody from any walk of life, and you have this. You're writing, imagine an essay or a tiny historical review of the elections in the United States in 1999. And what you would have if you organized a topic outline would be something like this. So you don't have much really. If you use this and you added page numbers, it could work in a lovely way as a table of contents. So it does help somewhat organize the general structure of the text, but it doesn't help make sense, okay? So I do recommend, instead of going always global, to organize tiny argument outlines. These outlines are what I call local arguments and local outlines, and they will help you write small chunks in which you need to prove a point. So an outline for a paragraph would be an argument outline. We won't see it ever. We will see a large outline, which is your table of contents after trimming it and cleaning it, but the local outlines are the ones that will actually favor the production of text, of finished text, okay? So in these local outlines, you can develop your claims, for example. This is extremely useful because when you outline the claim, you will have your main idea and what supports it, the evidence, you see? So you will need to make sure that your paragraph, your claim stands the test of logic. You will need to make sure that it works, but you will also need to make sure that the idea is empirically supported. So you may have ideas, but your ideas are worth nothing if you don't have the empirical backup, let's say. Yes, so when you outline, you will be able to do both. Okay, now let's look at one outline of this sort, okay? It's a tiny one, but I just want you to have a gist of what the idea is. This is taken from Purdue University's OWL lab, okay? And here what you have is an outline made of sentences. You don't need to have full finished sentences. You could use phrases as well. And you have like 3 ideas, and they are organized hierarchically. You have a thesis statement that you're going to exploit, explain, and support by using the other ideas. So you have this supporting idea that is evidence. You would probably have backups, logical backups for this, but also empirical backups. And finally, you have an example or a case that supports that idea. You see? So when you have this sort of outline well developed, the only thing you need to add is some spice, and the spice is your linkers. So if you do it effectively and you look at your outlines, the small ones, the argument outlines, if you do them conscientiously and you look at them critically and you edit them properly, all you will have to do is add linkers, and you will have paragraphs or perhaps sets of paragraphs already to be added to your dissertation. And that's all for you in outlining.